So going back to your journey,
Right.
you've come there, you've arrived in England,
Yeah.
you've ended at a place called Salisbury.
Yes.
What happened then?
Okay. Well, I ran into this guy called John, and John. Well, I used to run. I used to run every afternoon 5 kilometres, and John said to me, "Do you want to go for a run?" He'd become a Christian about 6 months earlier, and so John was a bit of an eccentric sort of guy, but he said, "Let's go for a run." So I said, "Okay, we'll go for a run." So we'd run about 3 or 4 kilometres, and John at that point in time had asthma, and so he was having trouble running. He had trouble breathing, and because I'm an Australian and he's English, I thought, well, actually he's a Welshman, but you know, we're a bit competitive. You see, we like to beat the British in sport.
Oh, right.
So I said to John, "John, you're too slow for me. I'll see you back at the house." so I ran ahead, and the Lord spoke to John and said, "Who are you running for?" And John said, "I'm running for Jesus." And the Lord said to John, "Well, begin to praise me." And so John then began to praise Jesus as he's running. And as he began to praise Jesus, his asthma was healed supernaturally. And the next thing I know, John's caught up to me, and he's got his arms in the air, a bit like that movie Chariots of Fire.
Right, yeah.
He's got his arms in the air, and he's going, praise Jesus, like this. And we're racing up the road together. And every time he says, praise Jesus, I felt like a knife was going into my heart.
Did you know him at that time?
Well, only for a few days.
Right.
and I was like, I looked at him, and it's like he had power, supernatural power. And I felt so weak and so inferior compared to, it was like a supernatural encounter. And it was so overwhelming that I just threw in the towel. And that means gave in.
Yeah.
And he ran back to the house. And I walked back, like, shaking my head, thinking, what's going on here? And then I just knew, God spoke to my heart. And God said, you asked me if Jesus was alive. And at that moment, I just knew Jesus was alive. It's not something that was intellectual, it was something that was in my heart. I just knew that Jesus was alive.
I mean, often we talk about the word revelation, don't we?
Yeah.
And in a sense, it was a revelation. Your eyes were open to the truth.
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you do then?
Then I said to John, John, I need to get baptised. I don't know why I said that, but I said, I need to get baptised.
Yeah.
And he said, well, why don't we just pray first? And so we got on our knees in his lounge room. And for me, it was like jumping off a cliff and not knowing how far it was to the end, to the ground. But I gave my life to Jesus. This is what I said. I said, Jesus, I believe you're alive. And I invite you right now to come into my heart and be the Lord of my life. And so it was like I surrendered my life. I gave my life. I was just turned 21 years of age. And I said, Jesus, take my life. I give it to you. And that's what I did.
So, as soon as you prayed that prayer, did you feel anything? I mean, people can become a Christian, but what happens next? I mean, you'd obviously at that point become what we would know today as a Christian.
Yeah.
You've committed your life to Christ.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Well, that Sunday, I was at the time going to a Baptist church, or that John was going to Baptist. He took me along to a Baptist church.
Okay.
The Baptist pastor said, give your testimony.
Oh, really?
So I got up and I told people what I'd done. And when I was telling them about Jesus publicly, that's when I knew that God was with me.
God was with you.
That's when I did that public testimony of Jesus. That's when I really sensed the power of God and the anointing of God upon my life.
I mean, the Bible doesn't it? If we confess Him as Lord.
Yeah. And that's when I remember thinking, whoa, there's something going on here. Like,
yeah.
And then a few days later, I felt I had to not stay in John's house the rest of my life. So I put my thumb out. John gave me a Bible. And it had in there Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. He wrote this. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him.
Right.
He will make your path straight. So I put my thumb out to hitchhike. And I said, Lord, I don't know where I'm going to go, but you direct my path. And you know, within 30 minutes, a car came along. And many cars were going past, but this car stopped. And I got in and started talking, and they were Christians.
Oh, amazing.
And they told me about the Keswick Convention.
I was going to come to that, actually.
Yeah.
And obviously, you went to the Keswick Convention. You can tell us a bit more about this couple and how they